Tonight, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, pledges to complete the Ibom deep sea port as he takes his campaign to Akwa Ibom State. In the camp of the People's Democratic Party, its presidential candidate Akwa Ibom promises to open all borders of the country if voted into power during a campaign rally in Katsina State. CBN Governor Mr. Godwin Emefiele fails once again to honor the invitation by the House of Representatives as lawmakers issue an ultimatum for him to appear unfailingly on Thursday.
And on business news tonight, Nigeria's oil rigs count dropped by 50% in 3 years, and that's according to the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries.
On sports news tonight, Argentina captain Lionel Messi leads the new world champions in their open-top bus parade of the capital Buenos Aires following their sensational victory over France.
And from the nation's capital, Governor Bello Matawale of Zamfara State confirmed the killing of civilians from Sunday's military airstrike on suspected terrorists in Melele and Mutunji communities.
And the Taliban announces the closure of universities for women in Afghanistan, further restricting women's access to education in the country. We'll begin with political campaigns as the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has been speaking on some of his plans if elected in the 2023 election. The PDP flag bearer is promising to open all of the nation's borders and restore security, as well as boost the economy if elected. The former vice president will speak in Katsina State in continuation of his presidential campaign rally.
A crowd of supporters are gathered at the Muhammadu Diko Stadium as they welcome the PDP presidential campaign team to flag off the party's campaign rally in Katsina State. The two men and their campaign team are flanked by the Katsina PDP governorship candidate, Yakubu Danmarke, his running mate, architect Ahmed Yaradua, and other party chieftains in an open-top bus. On getting to the stage, the smiles on the faces of the PDP presidential candidate and his running mate captures the mood of their acceptance at the venue. The former VP unveils his campaign promises to the people in Hausa language.
Part of our promises include restoring security and economy of the country, open all Nigerians' land borders, and to ensure that the lingering ASU strike is resolved, to ensure that students go back to their various classes uninterruptedly. I urge you to make sure that you all vote for the PDP from top to bottom.
We need a man that is experienced enough to take us out of the challenge, out of the pain, out of the poverty, out of the hunger, out of the insecurity. And that man with great experience is Alhaji Atiku Abubakar.
The DG PDP Presidential Campaign Council and Governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, and Governor Udom Emmanuel of Akwa Ibom State make their remarks.
Let me assure you, when Alhaji Atiku Abubakar takes over as the president, three major things I want to talk about. He will assure you of the rest. Number one, insecurity. Number two, the cross-border trade problem. Finally, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar will come back and restore wind energy here that will give Katsina electricity 24/7.
You have all learned your lessons in the last 7 years. PDP is out to restore security, provide job opportunities for the Nigeria's teeming youths, and fight the scourge of hunger. Please make sure that you vote for the PDP from top to bottom.
The PDP national chairman, Iyocha Ayu, then presents the party flag to the Katsina State governorship candidate, Senator Yakubu Danmarke, even as over 90,000 APC supporters drawn from the 3 senatorial districts of Katsina decamp to the PDP. Party supporters expect that this rally will translate to votes in the state come 2023.
We'll come back to more campaigns in a moment, but let's head over to the National Assembly, where for the second time in less than a week, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria failed to appear before the House of Representatives over the recent withdrawal policy of the bank. Mr. Godwin Emefiele, in a letter read by the Speaker, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, stated that he was still outside the country. He had sent a similar letter last week, Thursday, in which he asked to be excused as he was in the United States on an important assignment. The House then resolved that he should appear on Thursday. Our correspondent Terry Kumi reports.
It's Tuesday. The first plenary session in the House of Representatives is underway. The Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele is expected to brief lawmakers on the Apex Bank's new withdrawal policy, but he is absent and has sent in a letter explaining why.
Regrettably, the governor is unavailable to brief the House of Representatives at this time because he has other pre-scheduled official engagements he is currently addressing abroad. The governor regrets this and will contact the House of Representatives as soon as he returns to the country from his official assignment.
Considering that this is the second letter of absence by the CBN governor in less than a week, the lawmakers are dissatisfied with his reason for non-appearance.
The issue of him coming was just to fulfill all righteousness.
No, sir, the issue of him coming is in compliance with the law.
Yeah, compliance with the law, but we had already passed a resolution asking him to suspend the implementation of that policy. And Senate has also equally concurred.
It's still not too bad when the man comes to tell us what is his position or the position of the bank about the resolution of the National Assembly. So I think we should stand on your explanation that we give the man another chance to come, and when he comes, all these questions can be raised. I believe Nigerians will be convinced, and those of us who are here, foot soldiers of Nigerian people, will take the right decision on behalf of our people.
One final window of opportunity is then made available to Mr. Emefiele.
The Central Bank Governor, and give him another date for 10 a.m. Thursday, 10 a.m. Thursday, unfailingly.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives is concerned about the whistleblower policy of the federal government, linked to an alleged illegal sale of 48 million barrels of Nigeria's Bonny-Light crude in 2015.
Worried by the allegations that the entire cargo of 48 million barrels of Bonny-Light crude was sold without the proceeds being remitted to the coffers of the country, which translated to a loss to the Nigerian state of over $2.4 billion. The House, therefore, resolves to constitute an annual committee to investigate all crude oil exports and sales by Nigeria from 2014 to date.
The committee is also to investigate the proceeds recovered through the whistleblower policy and the level of compliance to the policy. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, a group which goes by the name Arewa Youth Assembly has thrown its weight behind the Central Bank of Nigeria's cash withdrawal policy and Naira redesign, which it believes will forestall the future warehousing of Naira notes by individuals. Addressing a news conference in the nation's capital, Abuja, the publicity secretary of the group, Mr. Ali Mohammed, says the new CBN policy will also help to checkmate vote buying.
Thank you so much.
Youths from the 19 northern states, under the aegis of Arewa Youth Assembly, converged on Abuja to share their thoughts on the recent redesigning of the Naira by the Central Bank of Nigeria.
On the need to sustain the new CBN policies.
The publicity secretary of the forum highlights the importance of the CBN policy on Naira redesign as he calls for the support of Nigerians and the international community.
The policy is aimed at fighting banditry and kidnapping for ransom industry, controlling the amount of money in circulation, fighting inflation and addressing issues of corruption and hoarding of Naira notes. Following nationwide compliance with the policy, the Apex Bank announced that over 2 trillion Naira notes are now in their vaults.
Thank you, gentlemen.
At a separate event, a coalition of political parties, civil society organizations, and ethnic youth leaders decry an alleged plot by the Department of State Services to truncate the tenure of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria.
It is therefore worrying that the head of a security agency that should ensure the full implementation of the policy is the one working assiduously to ensure that the policy is reversed. Is it that the security agency loves the massive untraceable cash in circulation in our country, which has aided the activities of bandits and kidnappers. As political parties, we condemn this action.
You can accuse a fellow of anything, but to call him a terrorist, that is unbelievable. Furthermore, we condemn the attack on the policy by governors as they are major cause of the poverty ravaging the country.
The Central Bank of Nigeria had, in November 2022, announced the Naira redesign policy and revised cash withdrawal limit, which pegs the maximum cash withdrawal over the counter by individuals and corporate organizations to 100 and 500,000 Naira per week.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives has met with President Muhammadu Buhari over issues of electoral violence, the cashless policy, and security. Mr. Gbajabiamila, who met privately with the President in his office, described the meeting as fruitful as it provided insight into the President's perspective on salient issues discussed and gave an opportunity to present the House position on those matters. The Speaker also promised that the 2023 budget will be passed on Thursday, December the 22nd.
Things have come up, things have come up in the last few weeks. Things come up every day in Nigeria, every day. And in the last few days, some things have come up. And I'm sure you know some of these things. And I just wanted to get his perspective on them and give him mine and that of the National Assembly's perspective and position on those matters. And we had a fruitful discussion. We're going to be rounding up our session. And of course, when we resume in January, it's going to be just barely 5 weeks before elections. So we're probably going to have very little time to sit, with maybe about a week to 10 days before we all go on for campaigns and elections. In that 1 week to 10 days, we intend to cram in a lot. For now, we're going to pass the budget on Thursday, hopefully. When we come back in January, we'll do some house cleaning matters. Like I said, things come up every single day in Nigeria, so we don't know what's going to come up at that time. And then we'll close for campaigns.
Also, party affairs 24 hours after paying a fine of 13 million naira on conviction over charges relating to money laundering. Dr. Doyin Okukwe has resigned as the Director General of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council. In a letter addressed to the party's presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, Dr. Okukwe said he had invested too much in the campaign to allow his personal travails become a source of distraction, hence his decision to step aside. He asked the presidential flag bearer to appoint a new Director General in his stead to continue the work without distractions. He, however, says he remains with the obedient movement and is confident of victory in the presidential elections. Well, in part two, after the break, the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, promises to complete the Ibom deep sea port. Plus, prominent Nigerians attend the Hallmarks of Labour Foundation Role Model Awards 2022 to celebrate 12 great Nigerians. Well, that's in a moment. Do stay with us.
This is what they call 21st century. When my customer say I want to use POS, I will just bring out my phone, open the application, press this code. I don't have anyone using POS anymore.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. Presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, pledges to complete the Ibom deep sea port as he takes his campaign to Akwa Ibom State. In the camp of the People's Democratic Party, its presidential candidate Akwa Ibom promises to open all borders in the country. They voted into power during a campaign rally in Katsina State. CBN Governor Mr. Godwin Emefiele fails once again to honor the invitation by the House of Representatives as lawmakers issue an ultimatum for him to appear unfailingly on Thursday. And the Taliban announces the closure of universities for women in Afghanistan further restricted women's access to education in the country. Back to the campaigns, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, is not happy with the state of the Ibom deep-sea port and is promising to bring it back to life if he becomes the nation's #1 citizen. Mr. Obi, who was speaking during his campaign in Akwa Ibom State today, says if revived, the port is capable of generating billions of dollars in revenue for the country and putting thousands of youths in quality-paying jobs. Mr. Obi went on an aerial assessment of the seaport using a chopper.
Mr. Peter Obi is campaigning in Akwa Ibom State alongside his wife, who is a daughter of the soil. He pays homage to the State Council of Traditional Rulers, where they urged him to keep his promises to the people of the state as their in-law. He then moves to the Unity Park, where its presidential rally is holding. Mr. Obi promises to revive the Ibom Deep Sea Port that will give jobs to thousands of jobless youths.
I was told that the most important thing to the people of Akwa Ibom is the Deep Sea Port. And I told the PCC chairman, Ogun, that when I finish from here, a copter will take me there to see it, so that when I start, we will put it in practice.
His wife also addresses her kinsmen.
We have a candidate that can unify Nigeria, that can bring succor to Nigeria. Our children would be able to go to school and come back and have jobs. Our women will be able to have what to do. The country will be one. What we are asking now is for us to take back our country. The time has come. The country belongs to you and me. We want Nigerians to be proud to be Nigerians.
From the campaign ground, Mr. Obi proceeds on an assessment tour of the Ibom Deep Sea Port with members of his team who are familiar with the projects.
This is the ocean. And then there is an island that shares.
After arriving, they speak exclusively to Channels Television.
The facility I was able to inspect today, if developed, will go a long way in contributing in building the production-led Nigeria we envisage, because it will be export. Everything is about export. That's why you're going to turn around this country when we manufacture for export. That facility, look at it, gas, just a few kilometers away, that you can just develop the entire place to be a gas petrochemical hub with other manufacturing industries and everything focused for export.
Natural ocean terminal. Do you know that was the only asset of Singapore? That a natural entrepot. They converted it into one of the wealthiest countries in Asia. Just that thing. Then you take the allied things. The fact that gas is abundantly available. ExxonMobil is out there in Eket, and gas free from there could create an industrial complex that would produce just about anything you can imagine.
Mr. Obi also speaks on recent developments about the Director General of his campaign.
It's a very unfortunate situation. I'm looking at it, but we are going to obey the law and everything. For me, the law has taken its course, and we have to respect it, and we have to move on.
Earlier in the day, the presidential candidate had an interactive session with university students and also paid a private visit to the former prelate of the Methodist Church, His Eminence, Reverend Sunday Mbang.
The former Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Chief Emeka Anyaoku, has identified the role which youths have to play in the electoral process as critical to its success. Chief Anyaoku stated this during the Hallmarks of Labour Foundation Role Model Awards 2022 in Lagos. Founder of First City Monument Bank, Otoba Shibomi Balogun, The governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, and former Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority, Professor Tony Radia, were among 12 eminent Nigerians who are recognized for distinguishing themselves in their various careers and for their impact on the society.
The Hallmarks of Labour Foundation Role Model Awards 2022 is attended by prominent Nigerians from all walks of life.
If we're ready with a video, we have
to celebrate 12 great Nigerians who, by dint of hard work and moral uprightness, have implanted their footprints on the sands of time. The chairman of the occasion, Chief Emeka Ayoku, puts this in clear perspective.
We are honoring 12 eminent Nigerians who have distinguished themselves in their various chosen careers and whose character and achievements have marked them out as genuine role models for our youth and the upcoming generations of our young people.
Chief Ayoku recalls the challenges in the country, adding that the youths have an important role to play in electing the right government and in the efforts at national development.
Our youth must imbibe and display the spirit of genuine patriotism and service to their fellow citizens, and indeed their fellow human beings, irrespective of ethnicity, religion, or station in life. We must therefore ensure that the administration we vote into power in 2023 is the right one, with credible plans for rescuing our country from its present perilous state.
This very, very prestigious award, the Outstanding International Icon Award.
The 12 recipients are called out and presented with the HLF Role Model Award in various categories. They include former judge at the International Criminal Court, Dr. Chile Ebo Osuji, recognized for the HLF Emeka Ayoku Lifetime Achievement Award. Otumba Shubomi Balogun is recognized for excellence in entrepreneurship and corporate governance.
Thank you.
Professor Dennis Edokpaigbe Agbola, also for contributions in the field of science. Professor Ekanem Ikpe-Braid for consistent advocacy for positive change within the university system. Professor Oladapo Aderile Ashiru for contributions in the field of medicine. Professor Tony Iradia receives the award for excellence in leadership and professionalism in the media. Just as the Borno State Governor, Professor Babagana Zulum, receives the Role Model Award for excellence in leadership and good governance, he speaks on behalf of the recipients.
I recognize your recognition as a call as well as a challenge to do more for the people that we serve. While I sincerely thank you for this award, I want to dedicate this award to our team, especially those men and women in uniforms.
The Hallmarks of Labour Foundation was established in 1996 to promote honesty, hard work and integrity through character emulation and role modeling. So far, 93 Nigerians have been honored with the awards since 1997.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's oil rigs count drops by 50% in 3 years. And that's according to the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Well, that's on business news. Stay with us. You're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Lagos. Well, let's now cross over to our Abuja studio where Terry Kumi is sitting by with more stories. Good evening, Terry. It's over to you now.
Good evening, Coyote. Let's begin with security from Abuja. The Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawalle has been speaking on the military airstrike against suspected terrorists, in which scores of civilians and soldiers lost their lives in Malele and Mutunji communities in Maru local government area of the state on Sunday. An eyewitness had told Channels Television that 68 residents were killed, while about 40 were injured, a claim the military denied. Governor Matawale, in a state broadcast today, however, explained that the security forces were carrying out an onslaught against suspected terrorists who had been terrorizing innocent citizens at Malele and Mutunji communities when the collateral damage occurred.
The successful preemptive offensive by the gallant military forces has yielded significant results worthy of commendation. Several bandits have been neutralized, their settlement destroyed, and a large cache of their weaponry recovered. It was a complex and daring operation by our brave security forces, which has immensely contributed to making the community around Nsado exit safer. The successes of this operation is a testament to the bravery and the dedications of our armed forces. I wish to extend my heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to them for the sustained effort in protecting our community and the crushing banditry and other crime in all parts of our state. I am aware that in the course of the onslaught against this barbarous element, a score of lives has been lost from the side of the friendly communities and the security forces. I use this opportunity to condole with our military authorities and all the security agencies and the families and the colleagues of the fallen heroes who have lost their lives. I equally commiserate with the families of those who lost their lives in the course of the operation in our various communities. May their soul rest in peace.
To technology now, the federal government has inaugurated an integrated satellite codenamed DelSat-1 to strengthen the country's national security apparatus. At the inauguration of the ground station of the satellite at the Defense Space Administration headquarters in Abuja, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, says the current administration is committed to fighting insecurity. And still on technology, President Muhammadu Buhari has commended the contributions of the digital economy in driving growth, creating employment and generating revenue for the country. He referred to the auctioning of the 5G spectrum in particular, which generated $547 million, advancing options for funding development. The President was speaking during the commissioning of the National Shared Services Center in Abuja in company of the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Mr. Issa Pantami. Let's head back to the National Assembly now, where the Senate has confirmed the nomination of Mrs. Loretta Onoche and 12 others as chairman and board members of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. Mrs. Onoche served as the special assistant to President Muhammadu Buhari on social media, and her previous nomination for the position of INEC Commissioner was rejected by the Senate. The confirmation follows the consideration of a report by the Senate Committee on Niger Delta during Tuesday's plenary session, which recommends that the upper chamber should confirm all the nominees screened by the Senate committee. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission has signed an agreement with members of the transport unions comprising the National Union of Road Transport Workers, the National Association of Road Transport Owners, and the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria for effective logistics deployment in the 2023 general elections. Speaking at the ceremony in Abuja, the chairman of the commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, notes that INEC would be needing at least 100,000 vehicles and over 4,000 boats and gunboats for the conveyance of personnel and materials in the forthcoming general elections. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Coyote.
Well, thanks a lot, Terry. Well, let's bring you more stories now. It's a few days to Christmas, and in the spirit of a season of love and sharing, the former governor of Ogun State, Senator Bikule Amosu, who now represents Ogun Central Senatorial District, has given out empowerment items to 5,600 residents. Beneficiaries are expected to present their tickets at designated warehouses for collection of the empowerment items.
The former governor was welcomed to the Arcade Palace ground to the warm embrace of a large crowd of supporters, market men and women, artisans, groups and associations. The empowerment items, which include 2,000 grinding machines, 2,000 sewing machines, 500 laptops, 500 generators, freezers and minibuses are being distributed to residents of Ogun Central, East and West. According to the chief promoter of the Empowerment Initiative, Ibukule Amosun, 60% of these items are for politicians, while the remaining 40% are for other residents.
What we are distributing, we are extending it to both our brothers and sisters in Ogun West and Ogun East. But Central will take the bigger share because I represent Ogun Central. That is what we've done. But these are things that can go really to individuals. Those ones that are for the communities, like transformer, we have done about 68 of those transformers. We have done 520 or 40 of the solar lights. We have done boreholes. We have done several schools.
He explains further that beneficiaries of this gesture will be given allocation tickets, which they will present at designated points before the items are handed over to them.
Once you get your slip, this is what we call the ticket. The different wards, they've given us the names. So the names will be written here. This is for generator, and this is for computers. This is for computers. So all the 5 have been color-coded. So we'll be giving it to them based on the name given to us. So once they present this in batches, it's not normally possible for each one and every one of them. We have almost maybe about over 5,000, almost 6,000 people. They will not be going in individual. If they know this is where we are staying, we can send our boss to carry it and go and deliver it to them.
The former governor used this opportunity to ask supporters to get their permanent voter cards and vote massively for the APC and its presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu.
We should come out. First, we should go and collect our PVC, and we should not fight. This is Ogun State. It should be violent-free. And let me thank all the various associations, our market men and women, NATA, Road, Akomra, National, the tailors, the Atakpatako, the sawmillers, all of us, we are for Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, and you will see what will happen.
The empowerment program is expected to last for a whole week.
Well, let's switch gears now. It's time for business news on the news at 10 with Willie Bunk.
Thanks, Kayode. Nigeria's oil rigs count has fallen from 16 to 8 within the last 3 years, according to the latest monthly oil market report from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. The figure represents a 50% decline within the period of 2019 to this year. Elsewhere within the cartel's member countries, Algeria's also fell from 45 to 32. Libya's rigs count slumped from 14 to 6, while Angola's grew from 4 to 9 during the review period. Now, the Director General of the Bureau for Public Enterprises, Alex Oko, has reiterated the government's plans for the sale of redundant assets to fund the nation's 2023 budget. Speaking after a meeting with reporters in Abuja, Mr. Oko explains that the proceeds from the sale will be distributed to the federal and state governments at 47% and 53% each.
The expectation in the fiscal plan for 2023 is 260 billion. You're right. And the key assets that we're looking at are the power assets for 2023. 5 of the NIPP plans, incidentally, we are reaching some understanding with the state governors for the sale of those 5 power plants. And that's what has really dragged, you're right, Onye, that's what has dragged this transaction for at least for the past 2 years. Just getting a common stakeholder understanding on the critical need to realize value from those assets now before they depreciate beyond value. Thankfully, last week we were able to resolve the issues with the governors. So for those assets, we're likely to reach financial opening of the bids before the end of the year, which is maybe next week, right? But the proceeds itself will come in the first quarter of next year. So we actually project that, in the first quarter of next year, we'll be able to exceed the expectation of the budget for 260 billion. By March, we should have done that.
Still on budget matters, but on the state level, the Imo State Governor, Mr. Hope Uzodimma, has presented an estimate of 474 billion naira as proposed budget for the 2023 fiscal year to the Imo State House of Assembly. During the presentation, the governor says capital expenditure is pegged at 373 billion naira as against 284 billion naira in the 2022 approved budget, showing a 23% increase and 78.7% of the total budget size, while the recurrent expenditure is pegged at 100 billion naira. On his part, the Speaker of the Imo State House of Assembly, Mr. Emeka Nduka, in his opening remarks, commends Governor Uzodimma for his achievements in infrastructure, security, youth empowerment, and general well-being of Imo indigents.
There is no doubt that this presentation marks another critical milestone in the ongoing radical overhaul and transformation of our dear state, Imo, within the superstructure of the 3-hour mandate of the administration of our governor, most distinguished Senator Hope Uzodimma. It is therefore heartwarming that our governor, who made this possible, our governor, who judiciously applied the 2022 budget to build this House of Assembly complex, Chamber, most distinguished Senator Hope Uzodimma, is with us today in our hallowed chamber to present the 2023 budget estimate titled Budget of Wealth Expansion.
Administration is ever committed to the well-being of every Imo person, whether a child, a boy, a girl, a man, or a woman, including the aged and the disabled. We continue to vigorously pursue those policies and projects that will create wealth for the ordinary Imo people, providing an enabling environment for investors, and ensuring the security of the lives and property of Imo indigenous and residents. This is the social contract which I entered into with the good people of Imo State. And by the grace of God, I shall keep it with every energy at my behest.
Now, the equities market closed on a flattish note today as investors appear to be gauging the way forward. Let's hear more from Ini John Mekwa.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, the market index moved by just 2 basis points today. Good enough. That movement was still northward. That means that the bull is still here. Well, this comes with just about a billion naira gain to the total market value. That's why we see there the all-share index is unchanged, because it's just a little bit of change that we have here. This also reflects in the market cap. The change was just around here, and that's why we see 1 billion naira added to the market. Now, the activity shows this very well, because we see 2 red and 1 green. The only green there, the volume at 100 million. This is just about 30% more than what it was yesterday. And those leading this green, at least that one that we see, they come from the banking counter. Zenith Bank, GT Co, they are doing their thing. That's why the banking counter is up 0.27%. They get even better than yesterday. And oil and gas recovered from that loss. It was yesterday at 0.22, while consuming goods flipped yesterday. They were green, today they're red, even though it's marginal at 0.01. Now, this was a close shave. Having the market make more gains tomorrow will make the bull be even stronger. So we do look forward to that. That's the stock market report. It's back to you.
And that's it on Business News. It's back to Kayode for the rest of the news.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Well, thanks, Will. On the foreign scene, the Taliban has banned women from attending universities in Afghanistan. All the information came via letter by the Higher Education Minister, Neda Mohammed, who says the move is until further notice and is expected to take effect immediately. But this new directive restricts women's access to formal education, as they were already excluded from most secondary schools. Here's Simon Pusey with more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. A former secretary who worked for the commander of a Nazi concentration camp has been convicted of complicity in the murders of more than 10,500 people. 97-year-old Irmgard Furchner was taken on as a teenage typist at Stutthof and worked there from 1943 to 1945. Furchner, the first woman to be tried for Nazi crimes in decades, was given a 2-year suspended jail term. Although she was a civilian worker, the judge agreed she was fully aware of what she was doing at the camp. Some 65,000 people are thought to have died in horrendous conditions at Stutthof, including Jewish prisoners, non-Jewish Poles, and captured Soviet soldiers. Former Hollywood film mogul Harvey Weinstein has been found guilty by a Los Angeles jury of raping a woman.
Your actions, Mr. Weinstein.
The 2-month trial heard how Weinstein used his influence to lure women into private meetings before attacking them. The 70-year-old Oscar winner is facing up to 24 years in prison when he is sentenced. He is already serving 23 years in jail after he was convicted of rape and sexual assault at his first trial in New York 2 years ago. Pakistani security forces have retaken a police station that was captured, killing all 33 hostage takers. Here, smoke can be seen rising from the highly fortified counter-terrorism interrogation center. Islamist militants from the Pakistani Taliban seized the center in the remote northwestern Banu district. Several people, including security officials, were inside at the time. The defense minister, Khawaja Mohammad Azif, said all hostages were freed, 2 special forces killed and 10 to 15 members of the military injured. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has made an unannounced visit to the frontline city of Bakhmut, where Ukrainian and Russian forces have fought a fierce months-long battle. In video footage shown on the Freedom TV channel on Telegram, Mr. Zelensky wished his troops well. He met troops and handed out awards to soldiers. For months, Bakhmut has been a key target for Russian forces in the Donetsk region. However, Ukrainian forces have been able to hold back the advance. The visit is a significant show of defiance and a demonstration of support for Ukrainian forces engaged in some of the fiercest battles in recent weeks. Local officials say 3 people have died after a blast ripped through a gas pipeline in central Russia that brings gas from Russia's Arctic through Ukraine to Europe. The Chuvashia Regional Emergencies Ministry said the pipeline had blown up during planned maintenance work near the village of Kalinino, about 150 kilometers west of the Volga city of Kazan. The pipeline, built in the 1980s, enters Ukraine via the Sudza metering point, currently the main route for Russian gas to reach Europe. Sam Bankman-Fried, the boss of the failed cryptocurrency exchange FTX, has agreed to be extradited to the US to face charges.
Hey, Sam!
The 30-year-old, who lives in the Bahamas, has been accused of committing one of the biggest financial frauds in US history. A source close to Mr. Bankman-Fried, who denies the allegations, said he had agreed to be extradited. FTX has filed for bankruptcy, leaving many people unable to withdraw funds. According to the court filing, FTX owed its 50 largest creditors almost $3.1 billion. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Well, thanks, Simon. And now for a trip around the world of sports, here's Victor Mathias.
Indeed, Kadi, welcome to the world of sports. Now, for the new world champions Argentina, the celebration of their World Cup triumph continued in Buenos Aires, the Argentine capital, earlier today. Thousands of fans flocked to Buenos Aires' streets to join the celebrations of the FIFA World Cup victory in the city. The Argentine capital has been in party mode since the dramatic victory over France in Sunday's final in Qatar, which has helped mask economic woes in the South American nation, battling one of the world's highest inflation rates. Led by Lionel Messi, the team arrived in the early hours at Ezeiza Airport, where despite it being around 3 a.m., thousands were waiting with banners, flags and flares and howling in joy after 36 years since the country's last World Cup victory.
Ojalá se mantenga así. Por favor, ojalá se mantenga así. 11:43.
Esto es hermoso. Esta imagen es maravillosa. Que está diciendo el tuit de la selección argentina hace minutos nada más que sale.
And the Moroccan national team also arrived in Rabat earlier today to a hero's welcome after their fourth-place finish at the World Cup in Qatar. The Atlas Lions exceeded all expectations and set a new benchmark for African teams at the world's top football tournament, knocking out both Portugal and France on their way to the semi-finals. Walid Regragui's side also humbled Belgium's golden generation, who entered the tournament ranked second in the world with a 2-0 victory in the group stage. Morocco pushed eventual finalists and France all the way in a hotly contested semi-final, but France were able to hold on in a match Regragui described as one step too far for his spirited but injury-stricken side. Meanwhile, France's national soccer team also returned from Qatar to the acclaim of huge crowds in Paris. Despite it being a drab and chilly December evening, several thousands had gathered in the capital cheering and waving French flags. Players Olivier Giroud and Antoine Griezmann led the crowd in the cheer, including star forward Kylian Mbappe, the top goal scorer in the World Cup. And that's a wrap on Sports News. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Victor Matthias. It's back to Kaide with the wrap of the news at 10.
Interesting. Thanks, Victor. And the main news again. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, today pledged to complete the Ibom Deep Sea Port if elected as the country's president. The Labour Party flag bearer made the promise during his campaign rally in Akwa Ibom State. Also today, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Akwa Ibom, promised to open all borders in the country if voted into power. He was speaking during his campaign rally in Katsina State. And the House of Representatives today issued an ultimatum to the CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, to appear unfailingly before it on Thursday following his absence during today's plenary. And that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikili. Good night.